November. Time is fluid. Your guides will get you to the messages you're supposed to see. So when you see it, it's the right time. This is if you are Taurus, Sun, Moon, Rising, or if you have a second house Sun or a second house Stellium. It is bright and early where I am today, but it may be afternoon for my lovely people overseas. So happy Halloween. While I shuffle, we're going to be looking into good morning, Juan. Good morning, Little John. I can't believe you guys are up. Good morning, April. Wow. So good morning, Syra. I know it's so early. I've been up since 5:15 doing yoga and all the other good stuff. This is what I hope to actually be my regular schedule. We're going to be looking into Taurus and your energy, the energy of other, which can be a person or a situation. Or are you battling your own demons? Literally, if you're trying to integrate a newer, more healed version of yourself or let go, it can be literally the struggle. Good morning, Annika. You guys are crazy. I thought I'm just going to go on at 5:30 in the morning. It'll just be like I recorded something because no one will be there. And so, we're also going to look into the alchemy, the energy, because to every action, there is a reaction. And we're going to look into all of that. Also, what's coming up. For all of you in the chat, I have the lovely Connie Jo. I'm going to do Taurus and Virgo and hold off for Capricorn because I have the lovely Connie Jo coming in at 7:30. We're going to talk about the veil getting thinner right now because it's All Souls Day. And if you're a replay viewer, you can watch that stream afterwards. Anytime the veil is thin, and sometimes we have certain transits with Neptune that make that happen besides Halloween, but it's going to be a useful video all the time to know how to tune into your gifts, which is important. Speaking of Connie Jo, I'm using the Herb Crafters Tarot, which was my Peach's gift to me on my birthday. I have entirely too much stuff on my desk. Okay. Okay, so Taurus, the energy that has recently most impacted, we could talk about like past energy, but past could be yesterday and it could be the last 2 years combined. We have a really nice Ace of Pentacles. Wanting a new beginning. When we see the ace, it's usually a hand coming out of the air, a cloud of smoke, whatever. It's to represent that this is universe giving you an opportunity. There's been a new opportunity for stability. Taurus and Taurus energies, if recently I'm feeling like some of you may have made a decision to like move forward, to do something, even though maybe it wasn't completely, I don't want to use the word safe, but like you trusted your gut, you trusted your intuition, you trusted this opportunity that came up, and maybe other people might have thought it's not the right timing, or you moved on making a decision without waiting for another person. To stay longer in an area, to move from an area, to where you're located somehow, like the house you live in, that is what I'm catching specifically, which would make sense for Pentacles. In your person's energy, might be one of my favorite death cards. It's like Dia del Muerte. it came out in reverse. The Death card is really about rebirth. It's the Phoenix. It's burning down to come back together again. And when it's in reverse, it's that thing that you thought that was dead and done and in the water, and it's coming back. So for your person, something they thought was a done deal, they're needing to revisit. Yesterday, Mars went into retrograde at 25 degrees of Gemini. Because it's Gemini and because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, I have been saying for these last weeks, because it's sitting on my Mercury. My Mercury is in Gemini at that degree. And it's also sitting on my MC, which is conjunct my Mercury is. And I have said that it has felt like the worst kind of Mercury retrograde. All kinds of problems with technology. I've had to recorded readings 3 times. Some of them have been 90 minutes. Weird, just little weird stuff. It's going to feel like Mercury retrograde exacerbated and then lighting a fire underneath it. Mishaps, things that feel, I want to say there's almost, Jupiter just retrograded into Pisces at 29 degrees. So Pisces and Gemini, the Pisces and the Jupiter and Pisces retrograde is now squaring loosely, albeit squaring the Mars. Jupiter and Pisces is good. It's luck. Anything that comes in right now that like, how did that even happen? Trust it. Go with it. I am feeling Taurus, and you've had Uranus, depending where your Taurus stuff is. You've had Uranus being a big player and will continue to be at all different degrees. Somewhere your Taurus placements are getting hit. Let the surprises happen. I know Taurus is fixed. It's Earth. It probably doesn't love, like, what? This is not what I planned for. I don't know that you plan for this person deciding they're either coming back or they're going back to something else. We'll read into it. We'll get clarification. But yeah. I haven't even looked at the other cards, but I feel this is like a big shift. And we are in the middle of 2 eclipses. Okay. What's really interesting is that the energy that this is creating, your Ace of Pentacles, you making a move for yourself, taking the opportunity for stability, regardless of anything, other people's opinions, how that'll affect someone who's a possibility. Understanding that you have to make moves, and if there's not commitment from another person, another job, even to the degree of like, why people who have very strong opinions, yet not there when the bills are due kind of thing, like that's a very strong opinion to have when you're not me. You're not in my body, you're not in my mind, you're not in my spiritual wellness, and you're certainly not paying my bills. Freeing yourself of taking too many opinions. The energy that creates with the Death card in reverse and that Ace of Pentacles, that is the Page of Cups in this suit, in this deck. Page of Cups is a small I love you. It's a gesture. Sometimes it's an apology. We're going to look into that. The energy that's currently available is we have the Knight of Cups in reverse for you. This is the energy that you may feel in right now. Knight of Cups in reverse is no longer like not down with the bullshit, not down with the words that don't follow through with actions. I apologize for everyone who thinks the Knight of Cups is lovely. Not my spiritual practice relationship with the Knight of Cups. Knight of Cups can be a love bomber. If the Knight of Cups is not followed through with a more mature energy, like a queen, a king, then I see it in the energy that really loves the love, but doesn't maybe completely come through on the rest of it. Taurus, with your Knight of Cups in reverse here, you're no longer taking empty words, or you're no longer giving empty words. I'm a fan of both for you. We love it for you, Taurus. They have the Eight of Wands in reverse. I mean, that's pretty much all we need to know, whether this feels more like another entity more than it does like you going through something. So if that's the case, there's probably little or just odd communication from your person or from this situation. For a handful of you, this is like a boss or a supervisor that was constantly talking about like the talk about like grooming you for a bigger position or a higher position, or like there's a new department opening up, something where you may have been told about a promotion or maybe moving to a different location. This is just for a few of you, or maybe just one or two of you. And now all of a sudden they stopped talking about, and it's making you think it's making you rethink your work performance as of late. I get the Six of Swords, that the energy that's creating, no longer taking empty words. And the other person is just, once you stop taking empty words, they're not giving you any. It's like the second that they realize that that's not working anymore, they've shut down. Like if they can't sweet talk you, or if they can't keep you on board, is what I'm hearing. If they cannot keep you on board with false promises, I honestly really feel like that they kind of mean it while they're saying it. I feel like they kind of mean it when they're saying it, but they kind of know that they can't 1,000% double down and see it through. But they really like having you on their side. They really like engaging you and how you get excited. It makes them feel important. Like there's something that can bring something to you. This is very interesting. Okay. Veil is thin, people. So a lot's coming in these readings. I'm going to try to get both of them done and finish Taurus and get Virgo done before 7:30. All right. Adrenal cocktails. Go look them up. Start your morning with it. Have a good night. Who's going to sleep? Oh, no. People didn't sleep all night. That happens to me all the time. Okay. Coming up in your energy is the High Priestess in return. In reverse. That's interesting that I said in return. And they have the Queen of Cups in reverse. These are very, very, very similar energies. I see the High Priestess is like, it's making me remember. So when my mom was here, and then I had a daughter, when my daughter became the princess and I became the queen, mom became the empress. Follow? Like new levels. New level unlocked, right? So the High Priestess is like the new level unlocked of the Queen of Cups. They're both in reverse. There is a need coming up. Oof. There is a need coming up, Taurus, to understand and know, hey, how about we don't knock everything down, buddy? A need to understand and know that part of you. So one, I'm seeing a more developed, mature, emotional. This person is mature and emotional, but the high priestess even tops the king of cups as far as emotional maturity. It brings a very interesting alchemy, and I'm not going to say what that is yet. Taurus, this is a very interesting vibe of worked really hard to get that emotional maturity. You worked really hard, especially for Taurus. When I see emotional maturity, I also see someone who's worked on their relationship with attachment. Letting go of our relationship with attachment is really freeing for us because we find ourselves less disappointed. We can do things without expecting reciprocation, which brings more joy to the doing and brings less heartache if it's not reciprocated or even sometimes appreciated. And that's really hard. That's crazy to say. But the thing is if you do something without the expectation of reciprocation or even appreciation, it also gives you a better gauge of when you want to stop engaging with that. Sometimes it's completely appropriate to do something anonymously, to do something quietly. You're like not wanting appreciation is also okay because it's not the motivation. And then there are other places in our lives where appreciation is kind of appropriate, right? So I'm not saying that like if you never get appreciation from something, if it never gets acknowledged, if that's just an anonymous good deed, then that's beautiful. But if it's supposed to be an exchange with another person that contains reciprocity somewhere, not like this all the time, like this, but still yet some level of reciprocity, then sometimes the not expressing or accepting I feel like that leveling up of emotional maturity let you do things without attachment or appreciation. And then you got to that point where you forgot to let it work as a filter of where you give that energy to. Because once you get to that level of emotional maturity, that's very valuable, not just to you, but to others around you. And you start to understand how incredibly valuable your energy is. Because if you've unlocked new levels, that energy brings things in. Some of you might be listening to me and thinking, why would I do anything and not even expect, if somebody else can't do the same for me, fine, but at least some appreciation of what I've done. And it sounds like I'm asking you to be a sucker. One of the things that reaching that level of emotional maturity does without attachment is it really helps you define who you want to give that energy to and who you don't. But you have to let that part kick in. You have to let it sit for a while. You have to marinate in this new energy. You have to integrate. You have to recalibrate. And then you have to apply discernment. It feels like you're at the warrior phase, which happens. I think I need to do a whole video on that, of a new integration. And what that means is when you start practicing, you feel something, you put a name to it, you start putting action, and then there's the practice of it. Once you start practicing a new integration, a new leveling up of healing, emotional maturity, boundaries, whatever it may be, we get so excited with ourselves, as we should, that we've reached this new level, that we forget that it's also going to create a filter in our lives, and some people are going to fall out. We hope to lead by example, but we know that we cannot control the free agency or free will of another person. You might be to the warrior part of this. Like, this is like wetting your pants in a dark suit gives me a warm feeling and no one notices. Like, I'm the only one benefiting from this new emotional maturity, and it actually has me feeling lonely. What the hell is that? So you may have turned off. I'm not going to use that better, more emotionally mature, giving, not expecting version of me right now, because I have to keep tunneling through this energy of not accepting empty words. And emotional maturity, when you are in that warrior phase, right? So you've had the feelings, you put a name to it, you put action to it, you put it in practice, and you're there. You're there. You've integrated. You've fully integrated. And now it started to work as a filter. And it's almost like you have to rethink how you're doing it. It's almost like they're showing me, it's almost like, the level of deciding you're going to ride a bike, and then, there's training wheels on it, and you have to practice and practice until you're like fully riding the bike. And then you move up to a 10 speed. God, I hope the new kids, the new generation understood what I just said. I think they did. It's like learning to text and then learning to do everything else and then finally learning to code. It's okay if you feel like you have to let that emotional maturity sit, and just use your pragmatism that Taurus is so good at for a minute. Because part of that emotional maturity and not having expectations of others and understanding where people are coming from and loving people without judgment can also lead us to understand and have so much empathy that we confuse having empathy and no judgment for where someone's coming from and why they might do things the way they do, and don't put an attachment of how that's personal to us, and excusing their behavior. And I want to say that again, and I feel like I'm going to have to say this in a minute and then move it over to a short and put it on all of my social media. Sometimes when we've reached and unlocked a new level of emotional maturity where we no longer attach expectation or even taking things personal when somebody does something the way that they do, that we don't judge, we have empathy, we can see behind their behavior, even if they can't. And all of that empathy that allows another person to just be where they are and meet them where they're at without judgment sometimes gets confused with excusing and continuing to allow their behavior to harm us. And there's a very distinct line. You are now straddling the understanding of that, Taurus. That's what's going to come up for you, and then may come up for you after the eclipse, because that is a full moon in Taurus. You are a big player in this next eclipse on the 8th, and it's squaring Saturn. And Saturn is the rules. It's a lot of things, but it's the rules that we apply. I always say your 7th house needs a bouncer at the door, because it's a really good club to get into, the thing where you let people in and have a relationship with you. Saturn is kind of the best bouncer because he's kind of an a-hole. But those rules sometimes have to get redesigned, and Saturn is in Aquarius right now. So that full moon is going to be squaring Saturn in Aquarius at 18 degrees. The full moon is at 16 degrees. Go look at where you have 16 degrees of Taurus, anything around it, or Scorpio. What's really interesting is the alchemy of them putting their emotions on hold. They got quiet, and then they put their emotions on hold. But Queen of Cups on the table is there. It might be slightly manipulative. I don't love the Queen of Cups in reverse. But I have the 7 of Pentacles in reverse, which is my card for, it's time. The waiting is over. Let's clarify a few things. Okay. I don't know what happened. So when I get the Hierophant, it's a lot of things. When it's death in reverse being clarified, that is somebody woke the fuck up. I don't know what happened in your other's energy, but something made them have, let's call it an epiphany. Yeah, okay. That Ace of Cups, there's divine connection between it. If it's an apology or a small offer of love. But just let's not forget, in the original Ace of Cups, Page of Cups rather, it's a smelly fish. It's a smelly fish. The Page of Cups, I see it too when it's a flirt or an attempt. If it's a beginning attempt, it's a flirt, and it's like, those shoes go really nice with your hair. It's the awkward compliment because they're feeling you out and they're not saying anything that puts them in a vulnerable position to be rejected, quite frankly. But if it's a reconciliation and with the Death card in reverse, it might not be the apology or the acknowledgement that you deserve there. I wanted to clarify that it's time. Your person over here needed an ego death. The Empress, which is the same as, it's the divine feminine energy, same as the Emperor is the divine masculine energy. And when it's in reverse, that's my sign for something needs an ego death. Let's get a message from your person. This is on hold, so you can recalibrate these new rules. For you have levels unlocked of emotional maturity. And I'm going to tell you something, Taurus. Don't be mad at me. 2nd house sun, 2nd house stellium. But it's harder for you because you are a fixed sign. Because I don't know if anybody's ever mentioned this to you, but you could be a little stubborn. It's hard for you, the change, the movement, all of that. But guess what? Uranus has been in your sign. It's going to be in your sign. The nodes are in your sign. It's meant to move you. We are not meant to get here. This is Taurus's dream, is to figure out what they want to do and figure out their career, start stacking their coins, get the partner, have the kids, have the happy family, and make it work. and figure that most of it out by the time they're like, let's say 28. But the thing is we are meant to come here to grow and change. It doesn't mean you got to throw everything away. Taurus is the person that's going to fix something before they're going to run out and buy a new one. They see value in things. Okay. Your person says, I'm ignoring other people in this silence. I think that you will know what that means. Let's see what you need to help you. What I want to draw an oracle card for is, what do you guys need to help you, as in the most beautiful, supportive, healthy way, move through the confusion of empathy and making excuses for somebody else. Let's see what you need. That did not take long. Wow. Okay. Because there's always a core reason. And a lot of times it's because we don't want to, let go of people. And what we have is orphaned and blessed. I say this all the time. A Cancer wants you to nurture them back. An Aries wants you to fight for them back. A Scorpio wants you to honor their privacy. Signs need those things. A Virgo is going to want you to, they see detail as love, effort. It's all the same thing, and they want it back. Something in your childhood, Taurus, may have made you feel like you were more alone than you should have been. A little different, but there may have been this whole, it's a beautiful thing to say, if you have what you need, then you'll never, need to have anything, or it's more important to love what you have than to have what you love. And if that's confusing to anyone, if you grew up with parents or something was said in your household again and again about we may not have a lot of things, or we may not have this, or dad may be out of the house working all the time, but we have food on the table. This idea that you can't complain about where you felt the deficits were. But what's very confusing as a child is it's wonderful to teach children to just appreciate what they have, and that other people have less, and that, as long as that's followed by, we can all make it work really hard to make it a better place for everyone. And I don't mean slave 70 hours a week. I mean, be a conscious part of your community. But when it is an emotional or foundational deficit, and we are told that doesn't really matter because there's food on the table, that doesn't really matter because you have two parents that are together, there is something foundational that you were taught. I'm blessed, so I cannot cry in my spilled milk. I would say, Taurus, that it is the big life lesson in this eclipse coming up for you, especially, is that you're allowed to examine without guilt. You can examine what makes you pick people that will repeat the cycle of whatever it is that you felt you were in deficit of as a child. So if you felt it was quality time because the parents weren't around because they're busy putting food on the plate, and sometimes parents do that. I've been somebody who's worked 3 jobs while I was a single mom and felt tremendous guilt. I felt like I could either kill myself to pay the bills, which I wasn't even always able to do, or I could be, we could be struggling and we were already struggling, but you know what I mean? There was always guilt involved. Either I wasn't working hard enough or I wasn't spending time with my kids enough. And a lot of times it felt like both. It felt like I should be guilty for everything. There is something that you were in deficit of as a child, and you were taught to not focus on that deficit. And it led you to never examine it. And the thing is you can examine it without saying, oh my God, I had the worst childhood ever. Just so that you can release it. And I hope you do that. This is an interesting story. I'm going to do mid-monthly readings. Hopefully Taurus is on that list of the most watched, so we can look into this. And if not, I'm on Soul Navigation every Friday night, checking in with the energies. Taurus, I love you. Know you love you. And if you're in the chat, maybe I'll see you over there for Virgo. And don't forget, Connie Jo is having a flash sale. You can go to ConnieJoSkywalker.com and she'll be here in about 35 minutes.